How has caring for an ill family member changed your life? A few years ago, my entire perspective on life shifted in a way I never saw coming. My mom, who had always been the rock of our family, was diagnosed with a chronic illness. At first, I didn't fully understand what it meant. The doctors explained it in medical terms, but what it boiled down to was this: she would need daily care, and our family's rhythm would never be the same again. Up until that point, I thought I had life pretty well figured out. I was working, going out with friends, planning trips, living in this bubble where my parents were just parents, strong, steady, always there. You never really picture them getting sick, at least not when you're still young yourself. So when the diagnosis came, I was in denial. I thought, okay, she'll take her medicine, maybe rest a bit more, but life will go on the same way. I couldn't have been more wrong. Slowly, her energy slipped away. The woman who once worked 2 jobs, cooked dinner for us every night, and still found the time to laugh with us on the couch, now struggled to get out of bed some mornings, and suddenly, it was me who had to step into her shoes. I became the one cooking meals, running errands, making sure the laundry didn't pile up. At first I saw it as temporary, just helping out, but as weeks turned into months, I realized this was my new normal. Caring for her changed me in ways I never expected. The first change was patience. I've never been the most patient person. I liked things fast, efficient, under control, but illness doesn't work like that. Some days, she would be able to sit at the table and eat with us. Other days, even lifting a fork was too much. I had to learn to slow down, to measure success not by how much got done, but by whether she felt comforted, seen, and safe. The second change was perspective. I used to complain about the dumbest things: traffic, a delayed text, a bad day at work. Now, when I catch myself grumbling, I think about how brave my mom is just to get out of bed and face the day. Suddenly, traffic doesn't feel like such a tragedy. Caring for someone you love strips away all the noise and forces you to see what really matters. But it wasn't just lessons. There were emotional battles too. I struggled with guilt. Guilt when I felt tired. Guilt when I snapped at her out of frustration. Guilt when I went out with friends and felt like I was abandoning her. There's no handbook for how to balance being a caregiver and still being your own person. Some nights, I lay in bed and cried, wishing life could just go back to the way it was. But then I'd hear her call my name, needing water or just company, and I'd get up because that's what love makes you do. The practical side was overwhelming too. I had to learn about medications, schedules, what foods she could handle, and how to handle unexpected emergencies. I remember one night vividly. She fainted in the kitchen, and I froze for a second, terrified. Then instinct kicked in. I got her safe, called the doctor, stayed up all night watching her breathing. I'd never felt more helpless and more responsible all at once. Experiences like that age you quickly. And yet, despite the exhaustion, there were moments of unexpected beauty. Caring for her gave me time with her that I never would have had otherwise. Long afternoons where we just sat together, talking about her childhood, her dreams, her regrets, stories I'd never heard before, wisdom I didn't know she carried. In a strange way, the illness peeled back layers and brought us closer than we'd ever been. It also made me grow up fast. Before, I thought adulthood was about paying bills, working a job, maybe saving up for the future, but real adulthood, I learned, is about responsibility in its rawest form. Being there for someone who can't fully be there for themselves. It's about sacrifice, and not the glamorous kind. It's skipping parties, putting your own plans on hold, learning to budget because medical bills come first. It's exhausting, yes, but it's also incredibly grounding. One of the hardest parts was learning to accept help. I wanted to do everything myself to prove I was strong enough, but over time, I learned that strength isn't about carrying the entire load. It's about knowing when to let others share it. Friends dropped off meals, neighbors helped with errands, my siblings, when they could, stepped in for a few hours so I could nap or just breathe. Those small acts reminded me that caregiving doesn't have to be lonely, even though it often feels that way. I won't lie, it's been hard. There were days I wanted to run away, to pretend none of it was happening, but there were also days when I looked at my mom, weak but smiling at a silly joke I made, and I felt a kind of pride and love I didn't know was possible. Because in those moments, I wasn't just her child. I was her caregiver, her support system, her teammate in this battle she never asked for. It's made me softer, but also stronger, more patient, more grateful, more aware of how fragile and precious time really is. It taught me that love isn't just about words or feelings. It's about showing up every single day, even when you're tired, even when it's inconvenient. I used to think my mom was the strongest person I knew. Now, after watching her fight day after day, I know she is. And strangely enough, through caring for her, I've discovered a strength in myself I didn't know I had. It's not the life I pictured, but it's a life that's taught me more about love, resilience, and what it means to be human than anything else ever could.